Hello and welcome to the show. This is Everything Under the Sun. My name is Ty. Hope you and your loved ones are doing well today. I want to just kind of start this off by apologizing and just mentioning about the last episode. There was an issue while saving the episode. I guess the file was corrupted or something and the audio only saved half of it. So I had to redo half of the podcast, and you can kind of hear it. There's just a dramatic shift in the audio volume, and I didn't realize how dramatic it was until after I posted it. So if you haven't listened to that episode, then that's something to expect, but I will make sure to kind of keep better eye on that, and when I do add certain volumes or when I do add certain audio clips, I want to make sure that, the volume is kind of adjusted so you don't have to change the volume when you come across something like that. But going along with that, I'm going to be using some new programs as well as getting some new microphones. So when I have guests on the show, I can have a quality microphone for them to use. So they don't have to use like their headphones or their actual, laptop speaker or something. So there are a few different things that are just coming along with the changing and development of the show. And it's all stuff that, I guess was eventually going to come with time. But yeah, so that's just something with that. Along with that, I guess just mentioning stuff about the podcast in the episodes, I want to just reiterate that I'm not trying to, tell you any way of how to live your life or anything like that, or things to think or things to feel, because I know that life is changing and there are different circumstances that bring us to think the things that we do and feel the things that we do and move in the directions that we move. So recognize the situation that you're in and take everything with a grain of thought. The only thing that this podcast is really about is to try to get us to really think about these things that are in our lives that affect us in so many different ways, and also the ways in which we can try to bring joy into our lives by also acknowledging the things that bring us joy. So that's really what this is about, because after I did the episodes on should and shouldn't and also the episode on money, there were so many times that I guess I started just saying things with like should and shouldn't about like to myself, like as I'm thinking to myself. So I realized I'm like, it's kind of hard to just stop saying shoulds and shouldn'ts because it's like part of our language and part of our dialect. So that's something. And also just about money, I've definitely had like a shifting in thoughts about just things I want for myself and different moves I'm trying to make for myself in my life. And I'm realizing that, it is something that involves money and kind of shifts the way that I think about money in some ways. So not necessarily like the core ideas like that I spoke about in the last episode, but kind of just some things that I could have mentioned or added to that to kind of raise the dynamics of it, or just like expand the idea of just money or whatever it is. But aside from that, that's kind of just those thoughts. And again, take everything I say with a grain of salt. I mean, I say this time and time again. Don't believe just like things that people tell you. Look this up for yourself. See how it fits in with what you feel, and if it feels right, then explore it further. But again, I'm not here to say anything. So I'm gonna kind of get going with this. Oh yeah, something that did happen. I was casually gifted a sword from a friend, and it's probably one of the best gifts that I've ever received. I didn't really like let on that this was like something I was really excited about, because when he gave it to me, I was like, holy shit, like in my head I'm like, holy shit, this is the best thing I've ever gotten. And outside I'm just kind of like, oh wow, yeah, thanks, kind of try to be really casual about it. But it's definitely like one of the best gifts I've ever gotten. I have no idea what to do with it, but now I have a sword. I've never had a sword before, and I think that's just pretty cool. So there's that. But anyway, yeah, I'm gonna get going with this episode because potential, I mean, this idea is something that kind of revolves around everything that's been spoken around in this podcast, whether it's things that damper our potential or kind of hinder the potential that we have or the potential that we feel within ourselves. And I think that it kind of just revolves around so many aspects in our lives that it's something important to be spoken about. So drawing from the box and seeing what the topic is for next week. Again, if any of you want to send any topics in, you can send those to everything.sunpodcast@gmail.com or to any of the social media pages that I will link at the end of this podcast. So it looks like the topic for next week is self-care. And I mean, man, this is just something so important as we start kind of coming out of 2020 and experiencing just different difficulties as we go through life. I mean, 2020 isn't something that's going to, as it ended, it's not something that's just going to end all of our problems. Like, problems are going to keep coming, and as we go through different problems and deal with life, it's important for us to take care of ourselves and make sure we know the things that can help us when we really need that help. So self-care is the topic for next week. And yeah, I'm not really sure where I'm going to go with it, but maybe self-care tips, things that I do, I'm not really sure, or just the importance of, I have no idea. So we'll find out when that time comes. But like I said, today's the topic of potential, and I've kind of been thinking about a lot recently as the new year comes and as new ideas towards what I want for myself and things I want to start pursuing for myself. It really does start revolving around this idea of potential, and I feel like this is something that we all kind of go through in so many different ways or in different places in our lives where we start really thinking about what can I do? What is it that I want to do, and how do I get there? Can I get there? And I think this is a question that, comes in different forms, and sometimes it comes in the form of just an emotion that we have, like feeling as though we're unable to take that next step or feeling unsure of what that next step is because we don't really know if we can achieve it or if it's something within reach. So when thinking about the idea of potential, I really wanted to get at the root of just what is potential. And of course I went to Google and I decided to define what this is, like what is potential. And of course there's so many different definitions as far as just scientific and different ways, but this is a way that's, I guess it's a little more general, but it's also something that I think can culminate the experience of just what it means to have potential or what potential means. So the definition I found was having or showing the capacity to become or develop into something in the future. And again, that's having or showing the capacity to become or develop into something in the future. Now, I think that it's of course very broad because, like what does it mean to show the capacity? I mean, like in our day-to-day lives, how do we show the capacity to achieve different things that we want for ourselves if maybe we don't even know what we want? And one of the biggest parts of this search, as I started searching potential and looking into this idea of potential, was a lot of conversation or a lot of topics about just career and success and trying to find things that are within you to help you find your full potential in these different ways. And there are so many different aspects within that kind of get me thinking about various parts of my own life. What does it truly mean to find our full potential? That's something that I think kind of gets me because I feel like when you say your full potential, then it's kind of a limiting thing. Like you have a cup that's full, it can't get any more full. So I feel like potential, even just saying trying to find your full potential, is something that's even limiting. Where it's like, I feel potential is something that's completely endless. It's something that is truly limitless when we start really thinking about the abilities that we have. And it really makes me think of being a kid because just in that time, we're so imaginative. We kind of explore all the opportunities and we're not really being told no. The world isn't telling us that, oh, that's a silly thing to do because as kids say silly things, like maybe you want to be a cowboy astronaut or something and you won't be necessarily told that you can't be that until you get to a certain age. And I think that limitless and boundlessness that we have as kids is something that starts to get really just sheltered in so many ways, but we still feel it within us when we feel like we're trapped in a corner or we feel like we're stuck in a place that we don't want to be. As we start growing in our lives, that conversation, those cute little things that you say as a kid of things that you want to be, maybe you want to be multiple things, but it starts to get narrowed down where, the world starts telling you, what do you want to be when you grow up? And it has to be one specific thing. You have to start focusing on this one specific thing. And it seems like that's a limiting belief. I mean, in my opinion, it's a limiting belief. It's an expectation that starts to diminish the possibility for us to even think about doing multiple things in our lives, aspiring towards multiple things, rather than just kind of picking a career, picking a path, and going towards that. Now, of course, there's nothing wrong with choosing a career and going with that, but it's more or less the idea of feeling the need to, or feeling as though there's no room for exploration outside of that. There's so many people that dream of doing so many different things in their life, but feel stuck in their place, still feel stuck in their position, feeling as though they spent too much time in this one place, or maybe it's been too long before they started doing something, and kind of starting to diminish the feeling within themselves to achieve the goals that they want for themselves. Really reach the potential that they can reach, which is, I mean, virtually endless, as I spoke about before. And that's one of the saddest things about many situations that we live in, or many circumstances that we live in, is that we're almost taught to believe that we can only be so much, when in fact we can be anything that we want. We can excel beyond, limits that we've never even dreamed of. Something I always think about is when athletes reach past a certain mark, like if they reach maybe running a certain speed, or maybe they just break some kind of standard that's already in the field, then that standard has been reached, and then it's known to everyone in the world that that is possible by humans to achieve that, to run that fast. Like, people years ago may not have thought humans can run as fast as the fastest human now, and yet that potential has been reached, and now that bar has been set even higher. And as we set the bar higher and higher, you realize that, what are you actually putting this bar on? The sky is truly the limit in terms of the potential that we can achieve, but we just have to try to achieve it. We just have to strive to move towards that thing, to push ourselves into that domain that scares us a little bit, that pushes us outside of our comfort zone and forces us to really accept the fact that we can take on more if we really allow ourselves to. I just think about how big the world is, and I mean, if you really want to go into it, like the universe itself is so massive, but with so many things, I mean, just with so many things in this world, I feel as though they're just endless possibilities. There's so many opportunities that we can move towards and things that we can create, opportunities that we can actually create for ourselves that change the way that the world is. And of course, as we move towards these things of endless possibilities, there may be countless setbacks that we experience. But with every setback, there are countless solutions. And as we move towards our potential fully, and I feel like, again, this limitless potential that we have to always remember that this is something that is a growing and learning experience. It's not something that we're going to just reach the epitome of everything that we desire towards. It's going to be something that we're working towards. But as we go through these different situations, we learn more and more. We learn how to become more resilient. We learn how to become stronger. We learn how to have more faith in ourselves to get us to that next place in life. So the biggest question now is really how do we get started with that? How do we start moving in that path towards recognizing the full potential that we have? And personally, this is something that I also mention, is surround yourself with people that have what you want. And this is something that I think I mentioned when I spoke about the person I met in Costa Rica, where he spoke about, just surrounding yourself with people that know more than you do, because you can gain knowledge from them rather than just having knowledge being taken from you. And this is something big when we're trying to reach our potential, because if you're surrounded by individuals, I mean, I love and care so much about everyone around me, and they've helped to develop me into who I am in so many different ways. But something that I'm recognizing in my own life is that there are places and things that I want to start achieving for myself in my life that the people around me aren't doing. It's like, and it's not necessarily their fault. It's just we strive for different things. I mean, I have friends that are starting their own businesses, but of course, they're different businesses than I want to start for myself. So I'm starting to see that maybe I have to start surrounding myself with people where I can have those conversations, where I can network in that way and create the opportunities that I want to see for myself. But it's really about the people that are around you. And again, that's something that's the hardest thing for many people to move past is really kind of stepping outside of the people that you've surrounded yourself with. And something that we always have to remember is that if you go on to do the things that you care about, the things that are truly meaningful for you, the people that truly care about you, they will be there and they will be in your corner no matter what, even if you're there physically or not. Whether you move away or start hanging out with different people, whatever that may be, those people will still be a part of you. The people that you love and care about and the people that surround you right now in this moment will still be part of you in so many ways, even as you start moving in different directions. So as you start thinking about the things you want for yourself, think about the people you're surrounding yourself with. Value them for who they are, obviously, but also recognize the utility of where you want to be in life and take that next step from there. Another thing that, is so big and something that I constantly have to remind myself of all the time is that normal people do the impossible every single day. The people that we look towards, the people that are creating amazing things, they're just normal people that started to move towards their potential, that fought towards the things that they truly wanted for themselves, and now they're epitomized. People look up to them, the Steve Jobs of the world, the people that live in name even when they're no longer roaming this earth. And that is something where it's like, people will look at them in awe, but not realize that they're just a normal person that really started to believe in themselves, that started to move with the things that they felt within themselves. And that's something that we all have the potential to do. As we start challenging ourselves and pushing ourselves and doing those things that seem impossible, the impossible becomes normal. The situations in which we feel as though we can't do, they start to diminish. They start to lower more and more because we have more efficacy within ourselves. We have more strength within ourselves to know that we can and will achieve those things that we want to achieve. There was a speech that I was listening to that was speaking about just this idea of the things that challenge us, the things that get in our way as we start moving towards our potential. And a question to ask yourself is, what is the work that you can't not do? And the way that I took that, the way that I interpreted that was, find that thing just explore all of the avenues in which you want to explore, and don't let fear hold you back. Find that thing that truly, once you start embarking on, if you can't do it, then you tried. And it's okay to step away from something. There was actually a post that I was reading on Instagram today, and it was saying something along the lines of giving up isn't a failure, it's actually a sign of strength or a sign of success, because you realize that you've kind of completed this part of your life, or you've explored this avenue, and you realize it's not for you anymore. And that's something so strong for you to do, for you to realize that you don't like it anymore, and for you to take that step away from it into a different avenue, because that in itself can be something so scary. But that action of moving away from that thing, it's something that gives you more strength. And as you move into that next situation, you already know what it's like to be new in a different situation. So now that experience of just being new on the job, learning something new, and starting to pursue something new, it becomes more and more normal for you. So as we start exploring these different places in our lives, really let's look for those things that challenge us. Like, what is it that I feel like I can't do, because then I'm going to start pursuing that thing, and see if I truly can't do it, because that's something that pushes us into that place where it's like our hopes and our dreams, our aspirations, our imaginings, that's where it meets like the true test of just our strength, and our advocation, and our movement towards the things that we truly feel we want for ourselves. And one of the biggest things to start moving towards our potential is that we have to believe in ourselves. We have to believe that we can achieve those things that we want to achieve. We have to believe that we have the strength within us to take that next step. Belief is something that it can radically shift the very things that we see in our world, the things that we see in our lives, the experiences that we have. It's so compounded and intertwined with the things that we believe. Believe in yourself, and you can start moving towards your potential. There was a TED Talk that I highly recommend, and I'm going to do a little snippet of it shortly in a minute. But it's titled The Beauty of Being a Misfit by Lydia Yuknavitch. And I feel like the biggest part of this TED Talk, it's one of the best TED Talks I've seen in a while. And the biggest part of it is just this idea of kind of self-actualizing, and realizing the potential that you have, and how many times, how often many of us don't take that step forward because we don't believe that we either have the potential to achieve that thing, that we can actually reach it, or feeling as though you're undeserving of reaching that, and what you would do if you did reach that goal. I mean, so many times we can just be paralyzed with fear, just feeling as though once we reach that place, like, what do we do now? So like I said, I'm just going to play a small clip from the talk, which is something that, I would highly recommend anyone listening to the full talk. But this is just a part where, she's speaking about her opportunity as a writer to go to New York and really start meeting the people that she's always dreamed of, and potentially even having all of her dreams come true, meeting all the writers and people that can excel her writing career into the next domain. And this is kind of just as she left New York and was realizing all the opportunities that were passed up, as she held on to that idea that she wasn't deserving of those things. So here's a clip.
All those open hands out to me, that small, sad stone in my throat. You see, I'm trying to tell you something about people like me. Misfit people, we don't always know how to hope or say yes or choose the big thing, even when it's right in front of us. It's a shame we carry. It's a shame of wanting something good. It's a shame of feeling something good. It's a shame of not really believing we deserve to be in the room with the people we admire. If I could, I'd go back and I'd coach myself. I'd be exactly like those over 50-year-old women who helped me. I'd teach myself how to want things, how to stand up, how to ask for them. I'd say, you belong in the room too. The radiance falls on all of us, and we are nothing without each other. Instead, I flew back to Oregon, and as I watched the evergreens and rain come back into view, I just drank many tiny bottles of Airplane Feel Sorry for Yourself. I thought about how if I was a writer, I was some kind of misfit writer. What I'm saying is I flew back to Oregon without a book deal, without an agent, and with only a head full and heart full of memories of having sat so near the beautiful writers. Memory was the only prize I allowed myself.
What a powerful message that is. I feel as though, this entire talk is something that I highly recommend listening to. Again, this is called The Beauty of Being a Misfit by Lydia Yuknavitch, and you can find this on any of the TED Talks or just by Googling it, but it's really speaking at something that I feel on different levels many of us can resonate with, and with that, I feel that's important for us to recognize those feelings and start moving towards the things that we truly want to feel. And when we start actively feeling or moving towards the things that we want to feel, we can start doing the things that we want to do. So yeah, that's all I really got for this episode. I hope that it was something that was thought-provoking in some way, something that inspired to recognize the potential within yourself, because it really is limitless. And as we start recognizing this, the sky is truly the limit for anything that we want to achieve in ourselves. So yeah, if you have any thoughts, comments, or want to send any topics in, you can send us to everything.sunpodcast@gmail.com. You can join the Instagram page at everything.sunpodcast. You can join the Twitter page at everysunpodcast. Or you can join the Facebook group at Everything Under the Sun with Ty. So that's all I got. Love you all, and I will see you next time.